Rabbanim of yester year, and it happens to be on Chav Chet Av, the 28th of the Hebrew month of Av, is the Hilula of a great Chalabi rabbi from Syria, from Aleppo, respectively. His name was Rabbi Avraham, Chaim, Ades, Zecher Tzadik Livracha. He was actually born in the English year 1859 and passed away in 1925 on 28th of Av. He was approximately 66 years of age at the time of passing. He will become a great Kabbalist, especially in Jerusalem. He will become part of the Bet Din also, especially of the Aron Tzovah community, a Syrian community in Jerusalem, and would actually help founding the famous Yeshivat, Rexoבות, Hanahar, in Jerusalem, respectively. So let's explore some of the highlights of the life of this really great rabbi. So as we said before, he was born in Aleppo, in Chalab, in the year 1859, in Syria, and came from great rabbinic heritage. His father was a great rabbi, Rabbi Yitzchak, and his mother's name was Rabbanit Rachel. And while he was young, he actually learned in yeshiva among great rabbanim, including Rabbi Mordechai Abadi, who was very much a great rabbi from Chalab. He was a great payetan, poet, song, also a great Kabbalist, also in Syria, and I think also part of Turkey also. Then there was also, he was in close connection with Rabbi Ezra Tabil HaKohen also. I think that was one of his great rabbis also. And when he reached the age of 20 years old, he would get married. He got married to Rabbanit Tzalcha. She happened to also be from great heritage. Her father's name was Rabbi Moshe Sfait, a great rabbi we have spoken also before about, who was the rabbi, actually the rabbi of Chalab itself, of Aleppo also. And after he got married, he learned with a chavruta of the great Rabbi Yitzchak Sharim. And also he would start learning with many, many great students, many Talmudim, and many of these students would actually become great rabbis in Syria, respectively, great rabbis of the city in of itself. And by the time it was the year 1889, that point he would be touching 30 years of age, he actually went to Eretz Yisrael, to the land of Israel, and stayed, I believe, with the Rishon LeZion at the time, great Rabbi Yaakov Shaul Elishar, who was one of the great rabbis, one of the famous Rishon LeZions of Israel, especially before the time of the Medinat Yisrael being formed. And in the year 1891, he would finally settle in the land of Israel, and he would settle in the Bukharian neighborhood, over the famous Bukharian neighborhood in Jerusalem, where many of the great rabbis, especially, and many of the great people, communities, came from Uzbekistan and many of the Sephardic Edut Mizrach countries, respectively. Over there, I think he had the assistance of Rabbi Shlomo Musayev, who helped many people settle in that land. I believe Rabbi Musayev actually owned many parts of this specific shuk, this market area, this neighborhood area in Jerusalem, which is now a thriving area in of itself. And then later on, I think he actually, many of the students, Talmidim, the great rabbis from Aleppo, were living in Jerusalem at that stage in time, and he helped, I think, in the foundation of the famous yeshiva for Kabbalists, the Yeshivat, Rexoבות, Hanehar, which we've spoken about also before. It's actually interesting. I believe that when Rabbi Yehuda Fatai actually came to Jerusalem, one of the great Kabbalists also, I think happens to be his Hilula this week also, he actually, I think, convinced him to actually write and publish his book, the Adarabba, also. This is a famous book of Rabbi Yehuda Fataya, also, which we had mentioned also before in the previous videos also, which I think was based on the Zohar, if I'm not mistaken. Also, he had close correspondence with Rabbi Ezra Harari Raful and also Rabbi Yosef Yedid Halevi, and also was very well connected with many Ashkenazim Rabbanim, including Rabbi Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld also. So he was very, very much connected with many other people. And then at the year 1914, the First World War broke out, and it was obviously a lot of troubleships. And I think the Turkish army, they actually caused him a lot of problems, unfortunately, at the time. And his sons had to go into hiding. Also, it was reported over. And I think he passed away, as we said before, in the year 1925. He suffered an accident, I think, where I think a bus actually hit him while he was actually himself, I think, walking in the sidewalk. And several days later, I think, he passed away, possibly because of the injuries, if I'm not mistaken. Please correct me if I'm wrong, anyone. That would have been on the 18th of August in the year 1925. Chav, Chet, Av, 28th of Av, respectively, Hebrew year, being Hey, Taf, Resh, Pei, Hey. And he was actually buried in Har Zaitim, the Mount of Olives burial plot over there. Also, I think it was very near the Yad Avshalom area in Jerusalem, respectively, also. And so, unfortunately, also, I think at that point in time when the Jordanians took rule of Jerusalem, which was very widely reported, they actually destroyed many of the tombstones around his graves, and many of them were removed, but I believe his one stayed intact and served actually as a landmark, according to which it actually helped restore many of the other tombstones of the rest of the plot, it was reported over when they actually started restoring the cemetery again. Now let's explore some of the great students of his, which we actually mentioned already inside this video. Rabbi Yosef Yadit HaLevi, who happened to be one of the great rabbis of Din, also in Chalab in Aleppo. That was one of his, and became a great rabbi also in Jerusalem. And Rabbi Ezra Tziyad, famous rabbi of Porat Yosef, he was actually his Talmid also, and he actually happened to be the rabbi of Chacham Ovadia Yosef. Another great rabbi was Rabbi Yaakov Katzin, also a famous Kabbalist, and I believe he himself was a founder of a great yeshiva, also Rabbi Yaakov Katzin, called the Yeshivat Mekubal Gan HaLebanon in Jerusalem also, and the Magen David, if I'm not mistaken, a Syrian Kehila also in Shar Tzion, also in Brooklyn. Also another one of his Talmidim was Harav Rafael Shlomo Laniado, also another great rabbi, great Kabbalist, also Rosh Yeshiva, and he, I think, was a rabbi in the Yeshivat Porat Yosef and Ohel Moed, also Yeshivat Ohel Moed. Then there was Rabbi Ben Zion Chazan, also that was another one of his Talmidim, also who was very much part of the old city of Jerusalem, one of the great rabbis from then, also Porat Yosef and Shoshana LeDavid also. And there was also Harab Ezra Sha'ib, or Sha'in, I think we pronounce his name, who was a great Posek Halacha and also an Av Bet Din, and one of the great rabbis of Aram, Tzova, respectively. He had left many great descendants. I think his son was Rabbi Yaakov Ades, also another great rabbi we've spoken about before, Rosh Yeshiva, also Porat Yosef at one stage in time, and Av Bet Din also. I think his son-in-law was Rabbi Aaron Moshe Chaim Harari Raful. He happens to be the son of the famous Rabbi Ezra Harari Raful. Another one of his descendants is Rabbi Moshe Yosef Adas. Also, I believe he became one of the head rabbis of Yeshivat Porat Yosef. Another one of his grandsons, Rabbi Yehuda Adas, the Rosh Yeshiva of Kol Yaakov, also a very prominent yeshiva. And also another one of his descendants, Rabbi Yaakov Adas, also, who's another great rabbi, also in Jerusalem, part of the Divrei Yosef, also. He actually wrote the book, the Divrei Yaakov, the Sfarim, also a huge Talmid Chacham. Also, he actually wrote a book in of itself, also called the Torat Avraham, which was based on various Chidushim, teachings on Kabbalah, also that came from many different Sfarim, if I'm not mistaken. Also, I think it was actually printed, if I'm not mistaken, through Rabbi Yaakov Ades, also one of his descendants. Also, I think he also did Shita al Mesechet Baba Kama, also, if I'm not mistaken. Also, really great books. He was a really great rabbi. Also, it's his Hilula here on Chav Chet Av, 28th of Av. He passed away at the age of 66 years of age. Please don't forget to light candles in the great rabbi's memory and learn more with friends who covered around 350 great rabbanim, mostly from the Edut Mizrach Sephardic countries here in the series. Please, we're a community here. We're learning together. Don't forget to share the videos, teach other people what you've learned, and hit the like button. I'm wishing you all brachot and blessings from Israel.